I'm going to be reading from excerpt from the new novel Anansi and the Book of Night, which is the second part of the new Adventures of Anansi series. The first part was Anansi and the 10 Dragons, and this is the second book. My name is Rubadiri Victor. We begin. Once upon a time, when animals used to speak. Chapter 1. Another disappearance. Anansi stood inside the square made by the yellow tape tied knee-high to the surrounding broken branches. A white, dusty outline lay on the floor in front of her. The sun was going down. She stood like that for a while as if waiting. Her eyes, however, were darting all over the scene looking for clues. But there were no clues. An animal that was once an animal was now an outline in dust. The sun dipped beneath the mountains, and all around her in the forest the soft squeaks began. As the darkness rose, what looked like fireflies in the background now became discernible as eyes. Dozens of pairs of eyes shining in the darkness around her. The squeaks became deafening. The bush roiled with the presence of the creatures. She was surrounded. A deep voice in the darkness said, "Do you know who did this?" Anansi answered, "No, I do not, but I will find out." Her eyes adjusted to the darkness, and before she knew it, they were there. The 4 of the royal court, present, standing next to her. Bats. The bat hosts in the surrounding circle of trees seemed to move in like a closing flower, leaning in around Anansi. She now could make out hundreds of them, crowded in the trees in the low canopy hanging upside down from dozens of branches. Their squeaks formed a loud carpet of sound like a physical presence. The royal force spoke as one to Anansi. "Our king has been taken from us. We want answers." It's end of chapter 1. Chapter 2. The Prince and the Spider. Where had the years gone? From that first mutual sighting of the prince stepping out of a prison of light, Anansi surrounded by a corona of color, to the chaos by the burning tree and King Lion's liberation, to the magic wedding, to the honeymoon adventures in the strange kingdom, to Anansi's adventures in the land of monsters, to normal colorful life in the kingdom of animals. Married life seemed to be flying by. Anansi and the prince were still very much in love. He was still the darling of the animals, attentive to each and every one to a fault. Anansi was still very much her own independent spider, adventurous, witty, impetuous, and discerning. They made a great team, and even though they both were very busy, he with affairs of the state and being an ambassador inside and outside the kingdom, and she as an advisor to the king and general busybody, they still found time for one another. Not everyone approved of them, of course. Guti was overheard telling some doves once that a lion should not be fraternizing with a spider, and that Anansi was very below his class. But animals will talk. The kingdom animals had not seen such peace and abundance since the first age. And since the incidents with the dragon and the return of the prince, all 7 of the animal houses really endeavored to live their best life. Gold ceased to be the appetite of the kingdom, and animals returned to the older ways of doing things. Even Brer Lion himself was more present as a ruler, and the council was strong, representing the will of the 7 houses. If the kingdom had one weakness, it would have to be gossip. None were more to thank for this than the Bacchanal crew, now led by Guti. Guti commanded the crew like a small army, and they were responsible for some of the most outrageous gossip to ever pass through the kingdom. Guti herself was so brilliant in her storytelling that many times animals did not even know if lies featuring they themselves were true or not. I really do that in truth? They would ask themselves, scratching their heads. Guti herself was such a flamboyant, charismatic character that many animals indulged her brazenness. The other thing of note was the reappearance of Tiger Cat. After his humiliation by the dragons, Tiger Cat had recovered and was soon back to his megalomaniac self. His various fan clubs, even though less described than before, were still numerous and did not make humility easy. Guti and the crew, in fact, were still his greatest cheerleaders and kept circulating many stories about Tiger Cat's prowess and growing lists of accomplishments. However, this period of peace now appeared to be over. King Bat was missing, or worse. The Bat colony had called Anansi even before they had called Commissioner Bull, or Brer Dog and his family. Anansi, after all, had found the prince all those years ago, although some now disputed this. The disappearance, or worse, of one of the monarchs of the small houses was cause for worry. It was worrying enough for King Brer Lion to call a meeting with Commissioner Bull, Brer Dog, and Anansi in the small council chambers. Anansi said she could find no real clues. The commissioner reported the same. The only clue, the strange thing, was the outline of dust. Had King Bat been burnt? But then, why would it just form an outline? Was the kidnapper leaving a code, mocking them? Brer Dog came in late and apologized, but he had a good reason. Sorry all, but more bad news. More bats confirmed missing. Dozens. Same circumstances. Brer Dog had left his family poring over the scene of the vanishings. Anansi came home from the meetings shaken, but tempted for once to do nothing. Commissioner Bull was competent enough to handle a matter like this, as was Brer Dog and family. Besides, she was feeling the wanderlust again. All her adventures in strange lands had whet her appetite to meet new animals and creatures and see new things. A trip with her husband might just be the thing. She touched the amulet, the ancestral amulet around her neck that protected her from enchantment, a trophy from adventures in the land of monsters. She heard her husband approaching the den. He knocked and came through the door, and they embraced. Before she could say anything, he said, "Bad news, darling. A mission from the Council of Elders. I may be gone a while." "What? Where?" "Unfortunately, I can't reveal any details. Trouble in a distant land. It's serious. I have to pack and leave now. There's some urgency." He kissed her on her forehead, and they remained holding one another for some time, this lion, this spider. She said, "The council need to get some other animal to do their dirty work." They laughed, and she let him go. The prince moved to start to pack his satchel. He said, "They have their hands full. The bees have started disappearing." Anansi laughed. "No, dear, it's the bats." King Bat disappeared, and then dozens more had just been reported vanished tonight. The prince looked up from her packing and said, "No, darling, it's the bees. An entire squadron of the Bee Royal Guard disappeared into thin air this morning, leaving behind only the outlines of their bodies on the ground, like dust."